Hello, hello. I hope everybody is doing well. I welcome you to our show, The Process. I am your host, Treasure Kalambe. I am so honored and privileged to have you tuning in today as we're starting, and this is our first official show. So, this is really exciting for me, and it's really exciting that you're taking the time to be able to tune in. And I'm hoping that this will not be the last time, that we'll definitely have you coming back for all of the content that we have to provide onto you. So, the process, let me tell you quickly about it. You may have seen some commercials as we were putting it up. This is really a platform where we want to have some conversations. We want to have some conversation with professionals in different fields of work, and we want to understand their journey. We want to understand what it takes to get from where they were to where they are right now, because we really believe that, it's possible to do great things, but in order to do those great things, you have to understand the journey. The dream isn't enough, but that there is a process to it. And we're hoping that with all of the conversation we'll have with our guests, that it will help you to get some clarity in your own life, in your own careers, in your own passion and drive of what that process is, and how you can engage that so that you can really live that meaningful life that you've been wanting and desiring to live for so long. And I'm so excited that on our first show, today's guest is really somebody that is near and dear to my heart. He is a friend. He is a brother. He is just an amazing individual. I don't tell him this enough because I don't want to, puff his head up anymore. But definitely somebody I look up to, and I'm always encouraged, inspired when I can have a chance to sit down and have a conversation with them. So I know if I'm encouraged and inspired, it's definitely going to be encouraging and inspiring to you. And my guest, without any further notice, his name is Emmanuel Kabongo, the actor, the producer, the athlete, the model. What else? What else can I add, Emmanuel? What? Am I missing
I don't
anything?
know about model.
Not model, because
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing some pictures. I think back in the days I
Oh,
saw you modeling somewhere.
yeah, I
So
was probably modeling somebody's
but not
line, but
okay.
I'm not really
See,
a
maybe it's the
model.
social media
Yeah,
thing,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah,
I'm a model on social media, I think.
a model on
Yeah,
social
yeah,
media.
yeah.
I'm so excited to have you
Yeah,
here
thank you.
today, man.
Thank
How
you.
you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
You one thing you pronounce your name like it's an English name or something. Scalambai.
You see,
Huh?
I gotta make it easy.
No, no, man. Well,
I,
you gotta say it right, man.
I try to
Scalambai. Even my last name. Butchering.
kabongo.
You see, he's struggling. Kabongo.
You want me to say it with the accent?
Yeah, bro.
Kabongo.
I see you're struggling again. No, no, no,
I've been
no, no, no,
Americanized too long. I think I've
no,
been here too long.
no, no, no.
That might be it.
You need to another trip back to Congo, bro.
If I say it in French, maybe Emmanuel Kabongo.
You're still
That's it.
struggling, just a
Really?
little bit. Un peu.
Oh
Un
man,
peu.
you're gonna have to help me with
Yeah,
that.
it's okay.
So how things, man?
Things are
How
good,
things
man.
been for you?
Yeah,
How's
can't
everything?
complain. Things are good.
Doing going
Things
good?
are good. By the grace of God, I'm alive. Um, you know, um, with the world, with how everything is, I'm happy to be breathing. I'm happy to be healthy.
Hmm.
I'm happy to be in a safe country. I'm happy to wake up every morning,
Hmm.
and be in good shape mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually.
Hmm.
So I'm very, very grateful to be
Wow,
here too.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. And we are really excited.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
humbled.
thank
I
you.
know you have a really really busy schedule, so it was a great honor to know that you could give us a little bit of time to be able to talk to us today. And really, just like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I wanted to have a conversation about journey. I
Mhm.
wanted to talk about that process that it takes, and particularly in what you do, and help folks get some clarity, because I know in this time you have a lot of young people particularly who are very creative, who are very skilled, and are trying to tackle that and channel that area of their life, but
Mhm.
not really knowing how to do it or where they should start or where they should kind of focus their energy. And that's really where I wanted to get started. Like, what was it for you? What kind of told you that, you know what, this is my field. Like, I want to be an actor. Like, what was it for Emmanuel?
I think for me, it was when I was 15 or 16, and I was in Hamilton.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And I was hanging out with this guy. We're related.
Interesting.
And he took me to this party.
All right. I might know this guy.
Yeah, you might know him. Yeah,
I
yeah.
might know this
He
guy.
took me to this party. I was kind of an introvert for a while when I was 15, 16. And this guy was the man of Hamilton. He was well known. Everybody liked him. He had a great smile.
Right.
And
Sounds like an interesting guy.
yes, very interesting guy. I think his name was Trey.
Oh my.
Yeah, Trey. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my.
that was his
No,
name.
now that you say it,
Yeah.
it sounds familiar.
And when he took me out to this party, it was a basement party. Remember those?
I remember
When
those.
you can party in the basement
Yeah.
and hit the furnace. Bop, bop, bop.
Pull up.
And yeah. And I had never drank alcohol. And it was because of this friend of mine,
What a bad
this family
influence.
member.
What a bad influence.
I drank for the first time.
Oh my.
And I think I drank a little too much.
Maybe.
And I remember just blacking out and waking up the next morning to my friend, cousin, family member laughing in my face, saying, "You were such an actor last night."
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Have you ever drank before?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh my God, you were running around. I had to put you in my trunk."
Wow.
You remember that?
I remember that. that I remember.
No. Well, it wasn't really the moment, but I just wanted to say that story because that was a good story.
It was a good story.
For me, for a long time, I wanted to act, but I didn't always know how to get into it. And so I started off around 15, 16, doing background acting. And I didn't know anybody in the business. My father was a background actor when he was here trying to make some money for the family. And so he was the one that introduced me to background acting. But then from when I started to about the age of, to my first year of college, I realized that it wasn't for me. So I just focused on sports. I focused on sports all my years in high school. I didn't get a scholarship like some of my friends and siblings. So I ended up staying in Toronto. But I always had it in the back burner that acting was something I wanted to do. I just didn't know how. And so to kind of fit in with the crowd, basketball was the sport. And it was not until my third year of college that I took a one-year theater program. And while I was in this program, I was also playing on the basketball team at George Brown College here in Toronto. And I had landed my first student film while still in school. And that student film was uploaded on YouTube. And that's when I knew. I was like, you know what? I think I like this. It makes me warm inside, and I feel like this is where I want to be. I don't want to play sports anymore. Because if I had to play a sport, it would have been soccer.
Right.
But nobody played soccer when I was growing up, So this was kind of like the revolution, of like, hey, this is where you should be, that internal voice. And that's when I decided to take the road and focus more on taking things, dealing with film and television, and started taking workshops. And from then on, just piled on different things.
And I really like that you said that it made you feel warm. Because I think for a lot of people, right, what happens a lot of time is that they're doing something for approval. They want to be appreciated. They want people to encourage them and people to love them. But when really, at least the way I'm hearing it, and you can elaborate more on that, but when we hear that something makes you feel warm. For me, it's like, listen, I find that sense of being, that sense of self, right? And I've identified like, wow, this is what makes me feel alive. Like when I'm doing this is really what I am. And it's not always easy to embrace. It's not always easy to embrace, right? Because it often will go against, like you said, it'll go against what you're already doing, going to school. It'll go against what your parents may want of you, what society may expect of you, and all of that. So how did you kind of take that leap of faith of saying, you know what, I'm going to go for this and not just settle for that status quo? Because I want folks to understand that it takes that risk, but you know, that within that risk, it's not just a blind type of leap, but there are some ingredients. And so what was it for you that helped you make that leap and say, you know what, I'm going for this, and that's it?
Well, you're talking about feeling this initial warmth. And to compare that feeling, for me, it's like dancing. I love to dance. I'm not a dancer per se, but you put on some salsa. Ooh,
Get you
I'm
going.
in the zone, you know, because of how it makes me feel.
Right,
I don't
right.
always understand the words, but I feel the music. You like, and it's not necessarily just salsa. You know, for anybody that likes music, you know, when you hear that song, whether it's by a hip hop artist or a jazz artist or classical music, when that feeling that you get, it's sometimes unexplainable, beyond the words of just warmth. So for me, when it came to acting, I remember when I saw that video online on YouTube. I mean, when I watch it now, ooh, I cringe.
Like, oh my.
I cringe.
Who was
I'm
that?
just like, ugh,
Yeah.
it was terrible, you know. But at the time, because of where I was in my life, because of what I wanted, seeing that video showed me that, hey, I can I can do other things besides trying to impress family members, besides trying to impress my friends, or besides trying to fit in so that I can be accepted. And so initially, when I saw that video, I was also being offered a basketball scholarship at the same time. Not at the highest level in the United States, but it was a school here in Canada. And I was also very excited for that because, you know, you get to go to school for free. And for me at the time, that was kind of like the goal. Let me also prove that I can get a scholarship like everybody else, like all of my friends and parts of my siblings. And so when I had the choice, I had to look within. And for me, because I was studying acting, it taught me how to be vulnerable, how to not be afraid of getting in touch with myself.
Interesting, right.
And I knew that there were parts of me that was weird, you know, to some of my friends when they would say, oh, you know, you're so sensitive. Or my mom would be like, you're like a chameleon, you know, you're always switching. But then when I dove into acting and started to read a bit more, not just acting books, but things that opened my mind mentally and opened my heart, I began to understand a bit more of my depth, you know. I'm still understanding it now, you know, the older I get, and sometimes I go back and read old books that I used to read when I first started to get into acting, and it's kind of allowing me to tap into different parts of myself, like seeing things that I never saw before when I read those books for the first time. But at that time, reading these books, watching these documentaries, and not just having tunnel vision on one way of living or one way of understanding life, it opened me up and it allowed me to feel. And so when I compared the two, basketball and acting, my gut, my stomach, my heart, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
weighed more onto the acting.
Okay.
And so I had to follow that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to follow my instincts because I didn't want to go and choose something, which was the basketball, which my parents wanted me to do, go to school. I didn't want to do that and then resent my decision or my choice later on in the future. And so I realized that this was my life and I have the power to make my own choices respectfully and follow my dreams. And my mom also liked acting.
Right.
My mom loved movies. Growing up in South Africa, my mom, like, to pass time, she loved Bold and the Beautiful, Date of Our Lives, Chuck Norris, Van Damme, you know, and like that's where I got like most of my background. And deep down inside, I wanted to make my mom happy, you know, from like when I was like yay tall. And then it just came back.
And it came full circle. And that's really amazing. So once you got that, you got that, and you kind of got into it and started, like you said, growing, reading, and learning, and doing all of these workshops. What were some of the early setbacks or challenges that you may have faced, kind of in the beginning? Because
As an actor?
as an actor, going for that dream, right? Going for that purpose of yours. Or some of those early.
Well, when you start off
setbacks?
as an actor, you know, depending what path you're taking, maybe you're in school for 4 years for a theater program for 4 years. Maybe you're in a film and TV program for 2 years. For me, I was in an what was it called? Performing arts program for a year. It's a George Brown program, and I knew that theater wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to focus more in front of the camera. So for film and TV. So I also knew that I didn't want to go to college and take a grant or student loan from, not a grant. I mean, you could get grants, but I didn't want to take student loans from the government because I've seen what it's done to some people. And for me, my entire times in school, I paid for my own schooling. I always had a part-time job. But in the beginning, when I decided to be an actor, people don't realize that you don't start off with an agent right away. You know, just because you say you want to act and you go and try to submit your photo, which is a headshot, to an agent, and you don't have experience, you know, they're just going to, depending on where you go, you know, some of them are not going to respond. Some of them are going to tell you right in your face, no, you're not ready for me, which happened. And for me, I had to learn how to build my resume. And the hardest part was learning how to accept rejection.
Interesting. Talk about that.
And being resilient and showing up every day. So I would get up every day, and there was this website called Mandy.com. It's a breakdown services that up and coming aspiring actors can use, even, you know, working actors can use to try to find independent work on their own, like as if they don't have an agent. And if they do, you can still use it. But most people that use it are trying to build a resume. So you go on this breakdown services website. So every day, I woke up in the morning, or if I didn't have school or after work, I would get on this website and scroll and scroll and scroll and look for work. Sometimes I would go on Craigslist and look for acting work. And so I remember one of my first projects was a few things simultaneously. A music video, and another one was a docudrama for Ryerson University. I had no lines, you know what I mean? But I was just so excited. And so, but there were moments when I'm auditioning for things where these roles had lines, but then I didn't get a call for the audition. Or if I did get the call for the audition, I would go in super excited, prepared, do my homework, and kind of wait, and no call. And that sometimes can be very discouraging. And so you have to have it in you. You have to have that fire in you to know that if you really, really want something, you only fail when you stop, right? Just because you don't get something right away doesn't necessarily mean you're a failure. right? It means it's your process. Everybody's process is different,
Exactly.
you know. You might go like I had to learn this, you know, like there's been moments where I've gone out for parts that I felt I was so right for, like so right. I had all my lines and I felt like I had the look. But what we don't always know, or what people don't always know, the general public, is one actor might be really, really good for that part, but maybe the production company or the director selected a scene, the partner or the opposite lead, or whether it's a female or male, for this character, and they don't match, you know. So let's say I go in, but they casted a woman for a part, but then I don't match the woman based on height, you know. I don't match the woman based on chemistry. You know, they're going to go with somebody else who either looks a certain way or matches the chemistry of what they're looking for somebody they've already hired. So I had to learn how to accept that, how to accept things that are out of my control and focus on what I can control, which is showing up every day, being prepared. Being prepared, not just meaning like when I get the audition and I go and study, but being prepared when I don't have the audition, like reading and watching things. So that was one thing that kind of taught me how to be a bit more resilient. Yeah.
And I think that that's so amazing that you said that. There's a line you said that you only fail when you stop.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell. Sorry. I'll add
please.
something.
Yeah, add on
Okay.
to that.
So my first agent, how I got my first agent, that short film, I took the link, I wrote a little resume. You know, I put a resume, like I had like three things: one documentary, two music videos, training from the acting workshop I had, and I sent it to every single agent in Toronto. If I could find their email, I sent it with my cover letter. I kept it very professional. Some people got back to me, some people didn't. And the second guy that got back to me, I went and saw him. I was very excited. He's like, you know, I don't have anybody like you on my roster. I think, you know, you're very talented. I would love to sign you. Super excited. I'm like, yes. So I signed with this guy. And after 6 months, after 6, 7 months, I'm back in class, and my acting coach is talking to other students who don't have agents on how to get agents. And I decided to share my experience with how I got an agent. And through my sharing, I shared one particular experience where one other agent had gotten back to me, and I had gone to see him. And my manager, my agent, my acting coach at the time was like, what was this agent's name? And I gave him the name, and he said, well, I know that name. That agent used to be a casting director for a very, very long time. So he's very known. I think you should try to be with him instead of the agent you're with now, because he might be able to get you more opportunities because he has access. So I was like, okay. I emailed this guy back. I'm like, hey, you remember me? You know, I kind of sent you my stuff before and I didn't come to see you. Can I come in for a meeting? He's like, sure, no problem. I go in, and I had to audition for him, you know, so I had this monologue. My monologue was, what was my monologue? American Gangster, Denzel. Yeah, that was my monologue. So I did it for him. I was young though, you know. I mean, I can't pull American Gangster Denzel at 20s, you know what I mean? But I like Denzel. So I do it for him, and he looks at me. He's like, pretty good, but you're not ready for me. In my face. I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, you're not good enough for me. You don't have enough experience. You know, you need more experience. In my face. I'm like, oh,
interesting.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just there like, my heart's beating. I'm perspiring, nervous. And he's like, yeah, build your resume and maybe we could talk. But right now, no, I don't think you're good enough. I took that no as my, okay, let me show you.
I'll show you what I could do. Yeah.
For 6 months, I nonstop on those websites with that current agent I had, and every time I landed something new or updated my resume, I would reach out to this agent. I would call him. I would email him. Hey, here's some material. I sent him some material for my class. Have you looked at it? I would bug him nonstop. Sometimes every other week, I would show up at his office unannounced. I would just show up, respectfully, of course. I wore a nice button-up shirt, you know. At the time, you know, my hair was a little different. I had that freshy look, you know. But I didn't care.
But you showed
I
up.
just showed up,
Yeah.
respectfully. And sometimes he would just look at me like, not today. And I did that for 6 months because I knew what I wanted. You know, I knew that this guy might be able to help me get to the next level. One morning, I was frustrated, but I felt a voice in me say, get up, shower, comb your hair, and go see that guy again. I got up, showered, combed my hair, put on a nice shirt, showed up. And as I walk into the office, it was a small boutique office about the size of this room.
Yeah.
And as I walk in, he's on the phone. He's got his partner on one side, and he has a little dog. So he looks at me, come in, and he's like, he's on the phone. He has somebody else trying to fix his computer, a technician. And he looks at me and he's like, no, not today. I look at him. I have my resume and my photo, my headshot. My headshot at the time, too, was not even on real paper. I used to go to George Brown, pay like $1 and print it on regular paper because I didn't have money
to do that.
Yeah, I didn't have
The
money
grind,
to afford
yeah.
like real photos, you know.
Right.
And if you looked at this photo, you could see the pixels. It was on
you
it was like super exposed. But I believed in myself, right? So when I walked in and he was trying to shut me down, I just looked at him and smiled, and I sat down and I didn't move. I just looked at him. I don't know why I did that, but I just sat down and waited. And he's looking at me. He's on his phone. The technician's trying to fix his computer, and he's thinking to himself, "This kid, he just won't let go. He just won't let go."
Yeah.
And he looks at me. He puts the phone down. He's like, "You know what? I was actually thinking, just come back in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I want to just come back in 2 weeks, and we will talk. All right? I watched your stuff. We'll talk in 2 weeks." I smile. I leave my resume. I leave. 3 days later, he calls me. He said, "Hey, I have an audition for you." This is not 2 weeks later, 3 days. "I have an audition for you, a pre-screen audition." So it's pre-audition for a casting director. And I want her to see you. And, there's this role that I think you might be right for you. Go, this is the address. This is the time. Go see this lady. I go to my meeting, to the audition. And I meet this lady, and I audition. She's like, "Oh, that was good. Just wait a second. I want to bring in my boss." I'm like, "Oh, I thought you were the boss. I thought you were the person I was meeting, She goes away. She comes back in with this lady, and I auditioned for this lady who was the main casting director. And she's like, "You're really, really good. Can you come in tomorrow for the real audition?" I was like, "Oh, I thought this was the audition now." She's like, No. We just wanted to see if you are good enough to actually come in the room for the real audition. And I'm very close friends with this agent. So I was like, yeah, no problem. I left. I was on my way to work. At the time, I was a server at this banquet hall. So here I am with my uniform on my way to work. I'm in the streetcar. My phone rings. I look at it. It's the agent. And I'm like, "Hey, I just finished that meeting you sent me to. It was really, really good. And she really, really liked me. And she told me to come back tomorrow." And he's like, "Yes, I know. She just called me and she really, 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 really likes you. I want you to come back and sign with me tomorrow."
And there it was.
And there it was.
Faith, hard work, and consistency.
Dedication. And through him, I was able to get in the union. And that's when things started to open up.
Wow. And that's really important to hear. And I'm hoping that our viewers are really capturing that, because I think those three things, right? Faith, hard work, and that drive and that consistency, it can't lack, right? It can't lack, because I think sometimes we assume that, well, you know what? I'm gifted. I do this really good. I sound really great. I jump really high. I run really fast, or whatever it might be. And we assume that the gift alone is supposed to do it, right? Like, you know what? somebody just sees me singing today, like that's it. I'm gonna be signed tomorrow. If someone sees me shooting a basketball, that's that's it. I'm gonna get that pro contract.
That ain't the process.
And we forget that there's a whole difference between that gift that we're talking about and that process.
Yeah.
Right? The faith, the hard work, and that consistency that it takes to even get to an opportunity or to get to a place of being seen. And folks often miss that and will quit in that period of time because they're not seeing anything happening, right? But then you have that other group of people as well who they'll put in that work and start seeing a little bit of success, right? So now here I am, I'm in a movie. Here I am, I'm in a commercial. Here I am, I'm signed, and you really start feeling like, I made it, like that I'm here.
Yeah.
And then they settle, right? They start to settle, or they put their arms down. So, what's that motivating factor? Because I mean, now you've been in so many movies, from blockbuster movies to television shows to web series and all of these things. I was telling you earlier, I keep seeing your face on the screen now with this Harry Rosen commercial every time I'm turning on the TV. So now when all of these things are finally looking like, it's working, it's paying off, what keeps you going? What is that motivational factor that once you're seeing some fruit that keeps you pushing to not settle and to be like, no, like there's more and I want more and let me go for it? What is that motivation that keeps you now to press forward?
I go back to how I got to Canada.
Interesting.
And coming to Canada was not easy. I was a kid. And so I didn't really experience what my mom experienced to come to Canada. We were poor. We lived in the church. We were homeless. My mom didn't speak English. But my mom had this amazing drive, and she never let up.
Oh, I could attest to that.
We got rejection after rejection, to the point where the first time we tried to come to Canada, we got arrested.
Wow.
We got put in jail with our mom. So you ask me what keeps me going, what keeps me wanting to just keep expanding. It's that. It's knowing that I could squeeze way more out of me than what I've ever imagined. And that I'm not only limited to this one aspect of the business, it's vast. There's other things I can get myself involved in when it comes to this business. So you say, I've got a pretty solid resume now. I've got a very decent agent here and in the U.S. But for me, that's not the pinnacle. That's not like the highest peak, because I've had dreams. And I think dreams it's God having a conversation with you. I think God's depending
Where you
how
go,
you get there. But I've had certain dreams where I'm like, whoa, why am I dreaming about this? Is it just my imagination, or is it a message from a higher being? Is it a message from God trying to show me, like, if you stay on this path, this is where you can get? And so some of these dreams are now starting to come to life.
Right.
I'll share something. For the longest time, I wanted to meet a really, really powerful agent in America, in the U.S. And I would always have dreams, imagine, daydream about it. And then it happened. I was like, whoa, it's actually happening.
Yeah.
Here I am sitting in this office. I'm not going to say names, but here I am sitting in this office with this person who represents one of the biggest actors in the world, and he wanted to meet me. And I'm just like, how did I get in this room?
Right. Yeah.
That's what keeps me going, And so I'm now not just focused on acting, but I'm also focused on creating. So I've been writing, and I've been trying to develop a film and a series because in high school, I didn't think I was good at English. I hated English. I failed sometimes, you know, because French is my first language. And there's a little twist with the French and the English because I didn't go to French school,
Mm.
you know? And so when I tried to go to English school, there was this misunderstanding of words and sentences.
Interpretation and all
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that. Yeah.
because we spoke French at home. And it's different when you grow up in a French community like Quebec, But in Toronto, that wasn't the case. And math was my fortress, it was my strong subject. So it gave me kind of structure. And so fast forward to today, after reading and reading and reading and reading and reading, here I am thinking about writing a book.
Mm.
Mind you, I hated English.
Right.
I hated
Yeah.
reading.
Mm-hmm.
I hated writing.
Right.
Why? Because I limited my own understanding. I limited my own drive based on what I was receiving from the outside world, based on the circumstances I was receiving from certain efforts I was putting in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, we go out there and we try to attain something and we don't always get it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us get discouraged, and we give in or we fold. But if you know what you want and you're not doing it for the sake of people, you're doing it for your heart, you're really following your heart, you will get to that road, you will get to that gate or that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to trust that the process. You have to have faith that things happen for a reason. A great example of building faith I learned is from not just the Bible, because I read the Bible. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist. I don't know if you read it.
No, I haven't.
Ah.
Read it.
Come
I'll
on,
have
bro.
I'll have to put it on my
Bro.
to-do list. Yeah, I'll have to put it on my to-do list.
Wait,
man.
you guys read The Alchemist before?
Part of it.
Ah, come on. What? Look,
We
man,
got-
this is my favorite book.
yeah.
It's my favorite book.
I'll
I think
add
it's also
that.
Will Smith's favorite book.
Is it? Okay,
But
I'll
it's
add
my
that on
favorite book
to-do list.
because it's about this young man who starts in Spain and he has this drive to want to find gold, this gold that he's heard about. He's a shepherd. He's a shepherd, so he's leading these sheep but then he finds out that there's some gold buried in Egypt. So he's trying to find his way how to get to Egypt. His process to get from where he is to Egypt, whew, there are moments when he becomes this rich man, well accomplished, but he still hasn't gotten to Egypt. But the fact that he took this path to go to Egypt and find this gold, he's attained all this wealth.
All these other-
But then inside of him, he's like, no. This is not the end. I still didn't try to go for that, that trip to Egypt or get that gold. You know what I mean? What would happen if I go?
If I made that trip.
If I made
yeah.
that trip?
Mhm.
He eventually decides to make the trip.
Mm.
And then at the end, he's shocked at what he learns. I won't ruin it for you so that you can read.
So I could go read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think even in that, without having read it, as we're getting close to the end here, it really speaks to what the purpose of all of this
Yeah.
is, right? That in any dream that you have, and I'm hoping, I really want to talk to folks about this. In any dream that you have to have that faith that I can do it, and that if it's in me, it's because something and someone has placed that in me as a passion, as a goal, and that you have to attach hard work, right? You have to attach hard work to it because you're mentioning,
But not just
nothing
hard
is-
work,
is
yeah,
just
smart
given.
work.
Yeah,
After
smart
a while,
work,
you got to be
exactly.
smart,
Yeah.
because you have to use wisdom. There's certain things that happen to you for a purpose, to teach you some things. And like sometimes I tell my siblings, you will keep facing some of the same tests until you learn how to pass it.
That test.
And I had to learn
That's amazing.
that
That's
test the
wonderful.
hard way.
Yeah.
Remember the story I started off with?
Mm-hmm.
How I started off,
Right.
how I went with this guy from
We gotta
Hamilton.
talk about that guy. He's a bad
Right.
influence. Yeah.
And it's come full circle.
Yeah.
Almost 15 years later, over 15 years later, that I'm finally learning that lesson. 15 years it took me to learn that lesson. And the fact that I'm learning that lesson now, it's just like things have opened up.
I've opened up
Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But it was that process of 15 years.
And I love it.
Oh.
Right. Not hard work, but smart
work.
Because the process isn't a destination. It's an ongoing journey. Right. It's we actually never arrive. We're always on our way to something.
Always.
Because like you said, I love that you said expanding.
Yeah.
There's always so much more to us, right? And there's always so much more we can reach out for. Because at every stage, there's something new that we discover that we didn't even have any idea.
We're only using a
that we
certain
could do.
percentage of our brain power. So when you know that, like, doesn't that excite you? I mean, circumstances are different. You know, there are some people who don't always have the means, and some people aren't always blessed with certain settings, right? But if you do have the ability, you know, and you have opportunities, the best thing to do is reach out or take a chance. Because the worst thing that can happen is a no. And a no doesn't necessarily mean you're not acceptable. A no doesn't necessarily mean you're not enough. A no doesn't mean you don't matter. A no sometimes means you need to find a different way to get your yes. There's this book called The Positive No, you know, and this book basically teaches about, I think that's what it's called, The Positive No. It teaches about how to say no or get a no, but receive the yes that you actually want. You know, so a lot of times, like, we do things because we want to stay relevant. We post things on social media because we want people to like it. But deep down inside, we know that our
not
heart's
really
saying,
me.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
really me. I've learned how to follow that and say, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to take this path. No, I'm not going to reach out to this or grab that. And through that learning, I've received so much more fulfillment with the yeses that my heart wants. And it's made me so much more grounded, so much more confident, and so much more aware at seeing things past what they are physically, you know, and seeing the depth of things.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning.
Still
And that's what excites me.
Wow. And that's really amazing. That is such a wealth of knowledge, and thank you so much, because that is such a wealth of knowledge. I think when folks get a chance to see this, and really, I want you guys to take your time when you watch this, because I think there's a lot of amazing things that you said that can really, really make a difference. And I want you to say one more thing, really. You know, with the pandemic, with everything going on in the world, and just challenges that we can face at times, and obstacles that we go through, right? Success itself, right? It's a wonderful thing, but it can also be this tremendous burden and pressure, obviously, that we can experience. What would you tell somebody or give someone as an advice on how to balance it, right? So that self-care piece, how do you stay level-headed in the highs and the low? How do you stay level-headed so that you can continue on with the process? Because you know, sometimes you'll find that success itself can break people, just the same as failure can completely damage them. But how do you stay level-headed and kind of take care of yourself so that you can embrace every single one of those challenges in your process?
Well, I'm about to get really vulnerable right now. So throughout this pandemic, I saw it as an opportunity for great expansion, tremendous growth. What I mean by that, because we're so used to patterns, as human beings, we're so used to comfort. We're so used to stability and safety. For me, I realized that this was a great opportunity to tackle down my vices,
Mm.
things that subconsciously have control, even though they seem conscious. And so I decided to take on this challenge to not drink,
Mm.
not have sex, stay celibate, read every day. And it's a path and a road that's less taken, less traveled.
Mm.
And when you think about it, it's scary.
Mm.
And it's not just for a religious purpose.
Mm.
It's because I personally realize that success for me doesn't just mean things. It's not materialistic, you know. It's a sense of knowing.
Mm.
It's a sense of understanding my higher self.
Mm.
And how can I get there if I am feeling like certain things always distract me?
Right.
Taking this challenge, whew, the first month
Yeah.
of not having a whiskey,
Mm-hmm.
remember that 15-year-old?
Yeah.
Yeah, that you took to Hamilton. Yeah. So now, 15 years later,
Try to stay away from it.
trying to stay, not just stay away, trying to control my mind
Mm.
and what my mind likes.
Do right.
Yeah, those comforts.
Mm-hmm.
I am over 300 days.
Wow.
Over 300 days.
Wow.
Clean.
Wow. Congratulations.
And
Wow.
thank you. And that for me, I have chills right now.
Mm-hmm.
That for me, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. That's not normal. You know what I mean? I like to party. You know, I like to be in relationships. That's my life. You know, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But my heart was like, no, there's certain things you need to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain traumas that you've carried from your DNA, from your generation, that's been passed down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not careful, you might pass it down if you
Someone else.
have a family.
Yeah.
You might pass it down to other people that you're connected with. And so you've got to learn how to control, how to have full control, awareness, unapologetically. And so that for me is success.
Mhm.
Showing up every day in settings where people are influenced or under the influence of things, whether it's drugs, alcohol,
Mhm.
but still able to say no.
Mhm.
And when I say no, when in the beginning I was like, no, and I felt like I had to explain myself and justify and like, I'm not weird.
Mhm.
But now it's like, no. With
Take it.
confidence, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. You
Mhm.
sure? Yeah. Well, why are you doing this? I just don't feel like I need to,
Mhm.
you know. Well, why do you read? I feel like that's what I want to do. I want to read.
Mhm.
And that for me is success every single day,
Mhm.
because what that does for me spiritually, I don't think I would have done if I was clouded.
With a lot of stuff.
You know, I don't think if I would have done it if I was worried about things. And I feel like this pandemic has put people in the state of mind where they have to, they worry about paying rent, and that's real stuff. You know, you got to try to make, you know, if you have a
Ends meet,
family, you
yeah.
got to feed your
Mhm.
family, you know. And I'm not there yet, so I can't speak for people who have a family, because I don't have a family. I'm trying to take care of myself, trying to take care of my mom. So I'm doing the best that I can, but I'm making sure to keep my mind, my mental health in
Mhm.
check, so that I don't fall into certain traps.
Mhm.
And I had to do that deep search to know what those traps were. And for me,
Yeah.
it was, you know, that stuff that I'm now kind of disciplined on
Mhm.
and with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for the
so
platform.
much. No, thank you for the time. I really think, and I hope, you know, our viewers, like I said, really take the time to really listen to this. I got to bring you back because I feel like there's so much more I can go into with you.
Sorry, I know you had questions.
like,
you know, like we could talk forever.
No, this was perfect. This
yeah.
is, and this is what I wanted it to be, because, you know, one of the thing about this show is that process just it's exactly that. It is
Keeps
a
going.
process.
Like even this, it's a process.
Yeah,
like we're not trying to make this all mechanical. We're
yeah,
trying to have a
you
conversation
gotta
and make
have a
it flow and have
conversation, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
important because I think that's where we find things, right?
Mhm.
There's something somebody can pick up in there, and it kind of helps them out. But let folks know what's new for you. Where can they, follow you next, or what's your
Well,
social
well,
media stuff? Let me give that out to you because I'm tired of seeing your face, but I know it's not enough
yeah,
yet.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
where else can we expect to watch you in the near future
Well,
projects?
you could watch me on the show, um, called Star Trek Discovery, where I look like my interviewer over here, my host, with those sharp ears,
See why you gotta go there?
protruding out.
Why you gotta go there?
Like, look at his ears; it's like so sharp and long, right? My ears are so small. But no, no, no. I'm on Star Trek,
Okay.
Discovery. I play a Vulcan,
Mhm.
and Vulcans have those really long ears.
Right,
I
right.
can't do that. I can't
Can't
do
do
it. I
that.
can't do it. I
I-
can't
I
do it.
wouldn't
It's
even
a
try.
genetic disorder.
Yeah.
But there's that, and
And what
social
so
media.
that's on the Discovery Channel. Where is that
It's
playing?
on Crave Canada.
Okay.
It's on Netflix in different parts of the world.
Great.
It's on CBS All Access
Mhm.
and CTV Sci-Fi in Canada,
Okay.
which is like kind of Crave TV.
Mhm.
And social media, it's simple. Emmanuel Kabongo at Emmanuel Kabongo on Twitter, and on Instagram it's just EMMKAB MCAB.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. And listen, I want you guys to go follow him
Yeah.
because there's a lot of great content that he puts on there.
Thank you.
And like you said, it's just not to please people, but you can always find something inspirational. And I don't know if you write these quotes on your own, if you have them sitting somewhere and you kind of just post them with your pictures, but
I
keep it up.
I let the download happen. I just like no, I don't.
That's
I don't do that.
And-
No, it's just books I've read.
Yeah.
Some things from sermons, some things just online, or some things that do come up
That do come up.
naturally. Yeah.
Wonderful. Emmanuel, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Trésor Kalambay.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, I don't even know if I can say my name
What do you
like that.
mean, bro?
I think
Yeah,
too much in
yeah,
English is
yeah,
in,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't even know if I can say it like that. And I want to thank our viewers for tuning in. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and I hope this has really been encouraging, that this has been inspirational. And if you're in the same field and you're trying to be an actor and you're finding that that's where your purpose is, take the wisdom you've heard today, apply yourself, and reach out to us if you have questions. Really, we're there, and with all the information that's on the screen, where you can really contact us because we want to be there to help you out. One of the things we didn't talk about is sort of having that help and those mentors and that assistance, but we want you to know you're not alone in your process, but there is a village that is available to help you through. All right, y'all take care, stay safe, wear your mask. We'll see you next time. Ciao.
Live long and prosper.